Last year, I made a video about the Gut Check Challenge, trying to drum up support for Shauna, who I've been talking about for a while now. She ended up coming in second place, but it all worked out in the end because she has now been booked for 2 dates on TNA's UK tour. That's February 1st and 2nd at the Wembley and Birmingham shows. So she's going to be in a great position to finally show TNA officials what she's got. The fact that they booked her for 2 dates would hint that there's some real interest on their part. Unlike some other women that feel more like pipe dreams, this is a talent acquisition that has a good chance of actually happening. And Andre Corbeil and myself have been trying to drive home the point on Twitter that this is somebody that TNA need to sign. TNA is finally showing signs that they're getting ready to replenish the Knockout roster. And this is something that I've talked about, written blogs about, debated in comments at TNA Asylum, but I'm going to reiterate here. TNA need new knockouts, and they need them real bad. We all know this. But in this case, it's not enough to sign just anyone. They're past the point now where just a little added roster depth is going to plug the holes. They don't just need a couple female utility players, they need female stars. Because they've lost some female stars. Mickey, Tara, Angelina, etc. I mean, these are women that at one time were really big deals in the knockout division. And you can't replace people like that with just anybody. The next group of knockouts that's coming in eventually is going to have some really big shoes to fill, and these women need to be chosen very carefully. The problem is, TNA don't really have the luxury of signing women that are works in progress right now, who might be great at some point in the future, but aren't there quite yet. Because with the knockout division in the state that it's in, they don't have the time to develop these people. They're in serious need of female stars who are already fully realized performers, that can wrestle, that can talk, that have their personas and their characters all worked out, who are ready for TV and can be thrown into the mix, hit the ground running, and really shake up this stale-as-hell women's division immediately. Not every woman wrestler out there is going to be able to do that. Reference Lady Tapa, who's been there for a few months now and has done virtually nothing. This is why I think someone like Shauna is really a must-sign talent. She looks like $1 million. She's got all the tools and experience. Strong wrestler, can cut a good promo, speaks a couple different languages. She's all gimmicked up, got her character worked out. She knows what gets her over, so there's no real development needed. She's got a fan following in foreign markets that TNA has signed TV deals in, so having a recognizable star to those people could help you grow your audience internationally. She has professional-looking gear. She even has her own theme song, for crying out loud, so you wouldn't have to pay Dale Oliver to crank one out. This is a case where all the work has really been done for them. Independent talents don't come any more pre-packaged than this. And to top it all off, she wants in. She's been campaigning for the company to give her a shot. She's knocking on the door. She wants to work for them. How much more convincing could TNA possibly need? I mean, this is like signing a WWE diva without the WWE diva price tag. You could put her in the ring with the Knockouts today, have her go for the title right now, and I'd buy it, because she was already legit before she came in. And considering how barren the Knockout roster is these days, how starved they are for new female faces, bringing Portugal's Perfect Athlete to TNA should be a no-brainer, in my opinion. You are not going to find much higher quality female stars on the indies than this TNA, and this one has been practically dropped in your lap. And since you apparently aren't looking at Kaylee Ray or Nikki Storm right now, why not Shauna? Give me one reason why not. She could help remedy one of the key weaknesses with your current product. The Knockout division has seen much better days, and she could go a long way toward fixing that problem. So if any of you guys are like me and you want to see this signing happen, if I've been able to convince any of you that it should happen, then please, make some noise about it. Give TNA that little extra push if they need one. I don't want to be bored by the Knockout division anymore. I'm tired of it. This has gone on long enough. Let's use our voices as fans and let's make something happen here. Tweet Dixie Carter, tweet Impact Wrestling. Hashtag Shauna for TNA. That's it. Over. Out. This Impact Wrestling review was brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Try it, and TNA will just run TV in the UK permanently from now on. love the UK tour. These are some of my favorite shows TNA do all year, and it's not hard to see why. It cannot be stressed enough what a difference the atmosphere makes with Impact being in a great arena with an awesome crowd, and best of all, no Taz on color commentary. Hell fucking yeah!
I got a factoid for both you guys. I got a boil on my ass.
I love the way this show felt. This, honestly, felt like more of a Genesis than Genesis did. Some of the old guard are gone. New stars, not just approaching the spotlight, but in the spotlight. No Taz on color commentary. This was incredibly refreshing. And to me, this felt a lot like what people have been clamoring for a long time from this company. Finally, it felt like TNA weren't just talking about making changes, but actually making them. And there was no Taz on color commentary. How fantastic was that? I don't know if that'll last, but for this week, I had a lot of fun with this one. I thought this was one of the hottest opening segments in months. Having Magnus, EC3, and Rockstar Spud starting things off. They didn't have to send Dixie Carter out there right away to glom all the attention because she wasn't necessary. They let the world champion carry this segment. Magnus and EC3 came off very well. And did you hear all the heat Magnus was getting? This is why they made him the world champion. Because in the UK especially, this guy is a fucking star. And that came across so well here. The interaction with Joe and Angle was great. I liked that Magnus didn't turn chicken shit, defying Dixie Carter to prove that he's not a paper champion, even if that's the perception they seem to want with him right now. It was kind of weird that they had to book another career versus title match, or title shot in this case. I guess that's replacing the cage match now as the gimmick they just have to do all the time. But I thought this was a terrific opener. It was exciting, the talent looked fired up, and it set the stage great for the rest of the show. Really good stuff here. The Knockouts had a blink and you miss it tag team match. It might have been a good match. I don't know. I wasn't really paying attention. I'm not drawn in by the women at all right now. This division is treading water and we all know it. Until a new knockout that's actually interesting shows up, then there's really nothing here I want to see. On that note, congratulations Santana Garrett. Whenever you're ready, sweetheart, just come right in and hit that ring as soon as possible. Yes! This was really just a way to get Velvet Sky in front of the live crowd. And oh man, when Sabin came out and told Madison Rayne to hit the bricks, I laughed so hard. He's like, out of my ring, tramp! Get lost, I got business with my woman! And she just takes off! You see, Sabin, he's a smart dude. He knows what a waste of time Madison Rayne is. This was fucking great! And then they finally got to the point with the Sabin-Velvet relationship where Velvet decides that she's had enough and she dumps him. I thought that came off really well. They both did a good job selling it. I would have preferred Velvet turn heel, but I think they'd reached the limit of what they could do with this angle as is, and it was time to change something. Where they go with it now, I'm not sure. I still think there's a good mixed tag feud in there if they got new significant others and fought for a while. Coincidentally, there's a great woman to do something like that with working the tour on February 1st and 2nd, TNA. Just saying. I wasn't quite sure how to feel about this James Storm Gunner promo, and it seemed like the crowd wasn't either. Like they were still expecting one of them to turn heel, but they didn't know which. After this, it kind of feels like neither of them will, but I mean, who knows, maybe that's a swerve. This was Gunner's first real test to see if he could hold his own in a talking segment. And I'll say that while there's room for improvement, while he went on a little longer than he needed to, I think this was a good step forward for Gunner. It started out with him kind of getting booed a little bit, but by the end of it, he got the Scottish crowd to start a USA chant, so that was certainly Gunner's best promo to date. That said, I still think him getting a world title shot in the near future is premature, and he could get there eventually, but right now I feel like he needs more development and it's just too soon for him. If the TV title was still a thing, that would be perfect for Gunner. But it's not a thing anymore apparently, so nuts to that. Bad Influence getting sacrificed here was kind of depressing. Those guys deserve so much more than to be getting jobbed out all the time. But Apparently their contracts are up sometime this year, and if TNA doesn't know if Kaz and Daniels are going to be re-signed, it only makes sense to have them putting people over right now, I guess. Note to TNA, if you don't re-sign Bad Influence, I will cry. And so will a lot of other people. For God's sake, whatever amount of money they want, just pay them.
And that's the fishing line, 'cause Shark Boy said so.
Okay, you've got the American Wolves, but you don't want them to start wrestling just yet. So what do you do to introduce them in the meantime? Two dudes who are pretty badass when presented a certain way as like serious no-nonsense types, but aren't necessarily bringing tons of personality to the table. How do you get them over if they're not wrestling? Answer: put them in the ring with Rockstar Spud. This segment was outstanding. Spud is so great at playing this obnoxious little loudmouth, and as a Brit in Scotland, he was going to be one of the most hated heels on the show by default. So they had him get the crowd all riled up, and then the Wolves came out and they didn't have to do shit. Spud had that whole arena just chopping at the bit to see them kick his ass. They just did one move on him and they got over huge. This was incredible. Rockstar Spud was amazing in this segment. What a great character this guy is. Dynamite performance, just dynamite.
The Rockstar Spud has left the building.
I think even ROH marks would have to be happy with how the Wolves have been treated so far. In hindsight, it was probably a really good idea to have them not appear in front of a live crowd until this week. Debuting on a big show like this made them feel like a big deal. They came out in the Our Main Event segment, and then at the end of the show with the Investor, everybody's talking them up. Hottest free agents in the business, best tag team in the world. It builds anticipation for when they do start wrestling, and it gives the fans who are seeing them for the first time the impression that these guys are big stars. Really well done arena debut for Richards and Edwards here. Speaking of tag teams, the Bromance actually defended their tag titles for the first time in a while, but in actuality, the match was about everything but them. Abyss can't be controlled, he causes a DQ, the match gets thrown out, Eric Young challenges him to a Monsters Ball next week, and the Bromance just sorta disappeared. If we're finally approaching the conclusion to all this Joseph Park Abyss Eric Young stuff, good. That's what it seemed like. Generally, I think this storyline has been poorly executed and drawn out way too long, but there might be some interest there from casual fans, I guess. I don't know if they can salvage the angle at this point, but we'll see. At the very least, they're getting to the point with it, so thank you. Meanwhile, the Bromance continue to be tag team champions without a feud or a storyline or a direction of any kind, just like they have been since they won the titles back in October. Exactly like I said, placeholder champions. The only reason they have those belts is because every other tag team in the company is busy with other stuff right now. Occasionally, they might facilitate storylines for other teams, but they have no purpose of their own. None. They're just keeping those tag titles warm until a real team comes after them.
Your posterior better contact someone at once.
Whenever you're ready, Wolves. Whenever you're ready. Alright, two things about this Shaw-Hemi angle. I don't know what kind of black magic these writers are working on Sam Shaw right now, but whatever it is, keep doing it. This guy is turning into one genuine creepy-ass motherfucker. Taking Christie's hair and putting it on that altar or shrine of her, whatever the hell it was. This gimmick is downright unsettling. This is not like any wrestling gimmick I've seen before. I mean, his wrestling style needs to be tweaked a little bit, but this character has me really intrigued. The Paranormal Activity camera shots were a little bit on the nose, but you're thinking outside the box, and I like that. However, if we're meant to be worried about Christy Hemme or sympathize with her if and when Shaw hacks her to pieces with an axe while blasting Huey Lewis music, that's not happening. And why? Because Christy Hemme is a horrible person. It's public knowledge that she's married, and here she is cheating on her husband on national TV with a guy who should be locked in a padded room somewhere. Who does that? Humiliating your spouse in front of the whole world like he doesn't even exist? That's deplorable, Christy Hemme. You should be ashamed of yourself. And you know what? I won't feel the least bit sorry for you if Samuel Shaw ends up wearing your skin like a suit, like a Christy Hemme suit. It would serve you right. Shame on you, Christy Hemme. Shame on you.
How dare you?
You know, I said I didn't care for this Bully Ray-Ken Anderson feud, and I still don't, but this week was the first time when I kind of got on board with it a little bit. There was no cheesy music or going way too far, like to a cartoonish level, teasing that someone's going to get lit on fire or something. I think they finally found a good balance between a realistic feud and this new, darker, cryptic stuff that Bully Ray is doing. And yeah, the coffin was a little corny, but they didn't beat you over the head with it. And still not a huge fan of the feud, but I might feel differently if they can keep it like this from now on. Is it my imagination, or did this friction between Magnus and EC3 just come right the hell out of nowhere? And last week, they just started teasing tension. For what reason, I don't know. But now Dixie is giving EC3 the business a little bit, and maybe the plan is to turn EC3 babyface down the line? I'm sure he could pull it off, but why change him when he's so entertaining in his current role right now? I mean, isn't it kind of soon to be doing this? To be continued on that. And I loved the main event. I loved it because of what it represented. This felt like more of a genesis than Sting versus Magnus last week. Now Sting is gone. He's out of the picture. You got the new, young, fresh face in EC3 in there. They got over the hump, and now it feels like things are changing. Now it feels like the wheels are finally starting to move. I liked the match. I appreciated that it was clean and there wasn't any interference this time. You know, after the AJ and Sting matches, I needed that. And yeah, Magnus lost, but he lost like a man. He didn't pull all that chicken shit stuff, at least, like needing 10 people to bail him out. And him tapping out to Samoa Joe plays into the paper champion gimmick they're cultivating with him right now. Although I don't necessarily like that too much, it does seem to be getting heat, but at some point you're going to have to really legitimize Magnus as your world champion, and if not on the UK tour, then when? If they're still doing the paper champion stuff with Magnus when they do TV in London, that's going to seem really counterproductive to me. Because to those British fans, he's their guy. The first world champion in 108 years that's representing them. You gotta figure those fans are gonna want to cheer Magnus like a hero, and why risk pissing them off any more than you have to? Anyway, Samoa Joe gets the win, so we're probably looking at Joe versus Magnus at Lockdown. Exactly what I wanted. Awesome. And then the show closes with the reveal of the new investor, and it's MVP.
Say what?
I'm not sure how to feel about this yet. I was never super impressed with him in WWE. I mean, he was a good talker, but I never thought he was anything really special. I remember him having a decent feud with Matt Hardy over I think it was the US title, and that's about it. And the dude's like 40 now or something, so I don't know how much he's got in the tank at this point. But the debut itself I thought was done really well. They built up to that all night long, and it felt like a big cliffhanger for next week when he showed up. They did cram an awful lot into those final few minutes to the point where the focus was kind of yanked away from Samoa Joe. The segment did feel really crowded. That was unfortunate. But the pacing of it worked for me for some reason. I think there was just enough time spent on Joe, and he said what he needed to say so that it didn't feel like they were in a rush to cut away from him. And they did get a several-minute overrun this week, so I think they did what they could. This was a really fun Impact. There was a different energy about this one where I just had a really good time watching it. The crowd was amazing. There was nothing really stupid. Taz was not on commentary. Don't underestimate what a difference that makes. Please put JB in the announce booth full-time, TNA. But yeah, just a really fun, enjoyable show. I really don't have anything to bitch about. And even though the investor angle is kind of hokey, it seems like it was well received, and that's something at least. I can only hope that the situation I'm in right now turns out as well as this did. Speaking of which, 3, 2, 1...
Stop everything! This review is now over! Because
the time has finally come to make the announcement that all of my viewers all over the world have been begging, pleading, clamoring for me to make for months. The identity of the new owner. Oh yeah, the sale is finally official, effective immediately. And you know what that means. Any last words before your whole world gets turned upside down, Dickless? I don't think there's anything left to say. Conceding defeat already, eh? Wise decision. And so, without further deliberation, if you'll direct your attention to the screen, it is my great pleasure to introduce to you and to all of you the new owner of this YouTube channel! Oh no. Oh no! Gotcha! He's not the new owner! There is no new owner, you fucking idiot! I mean, how the hell would that even work? What? You mean this whole thing was all a ruse? Yeah, and you fell for it, dumbass. I win again. God, it's so easy, it's not even fair. This calls for a celebration. Later, loser. I'm gonna go hit the strip club and spend all your money again. New owner. What a moron.